Hello and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Mo and this is FPL Inklink, your FPL channel that gives you the best and the latest content for the FPL season 2021-2022. So what's today's video all about? So today I'm going to be going through the fixtures for the FPL teams at the start of the campaign. So we're looking at the first 5 game weeks, their difficulties, what impact that has on your decisions for selecting the players. Are you going to double up or even triple up on some teams? And what teams have the more difficult run-in and who you should potentially look to avoid in the first part of the season itself. So if you like this video, give it a like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, help this channel grow, and let's get beginning with the fixtures itself. So what we'll be using is the fixture difficulty rating kind of table. So this is available on the fantasy football website itself. So I thought I'd give a screenshot on the screen to give you guys the kind of overall impact of the fixtures to begin with. So I know they show in the start there's going to be showing you 7 game weeks, so I'm focusing on the first 5. So let's go through there and let's see what we can get in terms of our fixtures and how that's going to impact our overall first game week draft itself. So what I've done is I've kind of gone through all of these in terms of the first 5 game week fixtures, and I've listed kind of like the top 5 teams who have the best fixtures in terms of difficulty ratings, in terms of FPL teams that are listed so far, and the fixtures that have been released by the Premier League in terms of the start of the campaign and how that's going to impact. So what impact this has on your team is going to be quite significant. As like for me, for example, I looked at this very carefully, where it has helped me in terms of not more premiums, because when you look at your premiums, obviously you look for them to perform over the course of the season. But in terms of like, the people you're looking to fit into your squads, who's going to overall give you that overall squad, this table is very, very useful indeed. So let's get started with the team that I believe, and what, obviously it's not just what I believe, it's what the difficulty fixtures rating actually show, who have the smoothest run in, or let's say the kind of like the easiest start to this campaign itself. So team number 1 is going to be Liverpool. So Liverpool, in terms of the first 5 game weeks itself, have the most easiest run in terms of that. But if you look at their first 8 game weeks, I know you can't see them on here, but if you look at their first 8 game weeks of the FPL season or the Premier League season start itself, they're playing all 3 promoted sides from the Championship from last season, which actually gives it a lot of kind of like promise in terms of like, making your decisions a bit easier. So I've seen a lot of drafts where people have double upped on Liverpool, and in some cases they've trebled up. So they've gone for like the defensive pair of Trent and Robbo, and they've also gone for Salah, or vice versa. They've gone for Salah, Mane, or Jota, any combination, and then they've gone for like a Trent in defence itself. So we're going to go through all that, and we'll discuss why this is going to impact your decision. So in terms of Liverpool, they've got Norwich away first game, Burnley at home the second, and Crystal Palace in game week 5. So 3 very favourable fixtures. Basically, the code itself on the table, so if you're new to fantasy football and you don't know how this really works and this is all alien to you, so I'll give you a bit of breakdown of how this all relates and how this all works out. So the difficulty rating goes from 1 to 5. So as you can see, the green is usually like the easier fixtures. The red that you see are considered to be difficult fixtures. The grey are considered to be 3 out of 5, so they're like the mid-range fixture for that club. And the cherry red, so for example, if you look very closely at Norwich and you look at Liverpool, they're red, so they're considered like a difficulty of 4. But if you look at their second fixture, which is Manchester City, it's cherry red. So now a lot of things, why people may say, why is Liverpool red and why is Man City cherry red? A lot of things that impact this is home and away. So Liverpool are playing away to Norwich. So Norwich get a bit of a kind of like, let's say, a plus point of playing at home. And Man City, because it's away at the Etihad, obviously it's going to be seen more of the most difficult fixture they could potentially get. So that's the example I'm giving to you guys. Hopefully that makes it simple for you to understand and understand how these kind of fixtures work and what impact it has on the fixtures for the teams and the decisions of why they are highly owned in terms of players or highly avoided because of the running of fixtures. So Liverpool, as I mentioned, are number 1. I mean, even the Leeds game as well, potentially some people may consider it is away at Ellen Road. So, maybe people may think it's a difficult game. For me, Leeds-Liverpool, always going to be a classic game. There's going to be goals. I think it's something that they can win. But we haven't seen Liverpool in action so far. We haven't seen Leeds in the Premier League season. It's quite early on in the season. So we can expect a few goals and an exciting game in itself. So what kind of players are we looking at the moment? So potentially you can see, like, from an offensive point of view and a defensive point of view, it looks very, very favourable indeed for Liverpool. So Trent is quite highly owned by managers at the moment. Sorry about that. In last season, so I'm going to be giving you guys like point ratings in terms of points per game. So what they averaged per game in the FPL season last season. So Trent was 4.76, which is actually a really decent return. Now, for someone who's priced at 7.5 mil, the most expensive defender in the game, I preferably would like that to be closer to, or maybe touching 5 and over 5 points a game, because you have got a lot of investment in that one player, and part of your defence that makes you kind of lower your funds in other places just to have Trent in your squad. But it wasn't his best season by a long shot. He has had better seasons. He's crossed 200-point marks. So if you can cross that again, it's a big thumbs up for Trent. And let's see how it can go. But he's got favourable fixtures to start off with. Today, I know Robertson got injured, so it looks like a minor injury. Hopefully he should be back for the first game week. But will that impact your decision? We'll have to wait and see. And another player that is highly owned, almost 50% of the managers at the time of this recording are almost owning Mo Salah. So he's quite favourable because of the fixtures and his performance season in, season out for the last 4 seasons. He's got over 225 points every season. So 12.5, as he's the most expensive player in the game itself, along with Harry Kane. There is no reason why he can't be selected in such high ownership, and why managers, will look to put the armband on him for majority of the first couple of fixtures itself. Obviously, the Chelsea game might be something where people look elsewhere. So if we look in game week 3, for example, you can see teams like, potentially Spurs at Watford. So Son, or if Kane's still there, might be a popular option for them to captain as well. So there's a lot to look forward to in that regards as well. So Salah last season, 6.75 points per game, really, really rewarding and a good investment, to be fair. He's on penalties, corners, and free kicks as well. And then Mane is also being considered at the moment, for me, highly priced, overpriced in my opinion, 12 mil. I think there's better alternatives for that price. For example, Bruno and Kevin De Bruyne. But again, that's down to you. He's owned by about 3% of managers. So if you want to go differential and double up on them too, there's no reason why he can't start off with a bang and get you those returns. And because of the low ownership, if he does fire and you have him in your squad, that will boost your ranking significantly in the first part of the season. And he averaged 5.64 points per game last season. But again, it's quite high. But if you've got a player of that much investment, you want them to be hitting at least 6 points per game, if not over. So Liverpool have the favourable start according to the FTR, the start of the season. At number 2 in fixture difficulty, you don't have to go too far from Liverpool. Same city, it's Everton. So they are classified to have some really good fixtures. Now, I can only show you up to the first 7 game weeks here, but if you look at the first 10 game weeks, overall, if we were to do it over 10 weeks, they generally have the best fixtures in terms of difficulty rating itself. So let's have a look. They start off at home with Southampton, which should be a good game for Benitez to kind of settle in, followed by Leeds and Brighton and Hove Albion, Burnley, Aston Villa, Norwich, and then Manchester United in game week 6. So I've seen a lot of people trying to get Digne, Richarlison. Obviously, he might be away on duty for the Olympics. DCL. There's other players as well, potentially they've been looking at the moment from Everton. But Digne, Pickford, and DCL actually at the moment are the most common or the highly picked players. So if we were to look at Everton, for example, Pickford, 5 mil, averaged 3.74 points per game last season. Didn't have a great season last season in terms of defensively, Everton, but with Benitez coming in, I can assure you they will be more defensively sound. So, maybe picking Pickford for the $500,000 extra compared to Sanchez from Brighton may not be a bad idea whatsoever. He's England number 1. He had a good Euros as well. With a manager like Benitez, things can only get better. Yes, there's a bit of scepticism from the Everton faithful around Benitez and his hiring, but he's a proven manager, he's class, and he will bring stability in terms of defence, in my opinion, for Everton. So that's why Pickford seems a good option as well. Another part of the defence of Everton, who's being highly looked at by experts and managers are selecting him at, quite a good number at the moment, is Luca Digne. Now, a lot of people are saying, they've brought in Townsend, so he's taken a few free kicks and set pieces. But this guy's lethal in terms of his free kick ability, left foot shots, likes to get into the box, likes to move forward down the line. A lot of people are saying because of Rafa's general perception of defence, he might not get forward as much. But I think that's being overcritical. I think naturally he's a flair player, and yes, he might have a defensive duty, but some people are naturally talented and have the ambition to get forward, and he's one of them. And his points per game last season was 4.03. He was injured partly for the season, but I think there's some real good hope for him. He got 9 assists, so with those fixtures, there should be some real good points for him to bag in terms of clean sheets, and maybe a goal or two with an assist might do actually some good to managers who do select him indeed. The next one from Everton people are looking at the moment is Calvert-Lewin. So DCL had a flying start to the season last season. At one point, he was owned by nearly 60% of managers because he just couldn't stop scoring. Went a bit quiet midway through the season, but overall it was his best season in FPL by a long way, and his overall points was 5.7 points per game. So he did really well. Can he replicate that this season and be better? Of course. With the service and stuff he's going to get from the midfield. Now they've got a Townsend in there, along with Richarlison as well when he's back. Looks like he's in a good place. Digne in the squad to give him the crosses, and he's got a really good aerial ability. With those fixtures, I think some players who are, or managers who are looking to get Everton players in are looking to double up on him. So you can eventually, at some point, have in the first game draft weeks, I've seen some people have three Liverpool and 2 Everton players in. So that's half of your side made up for at least the first 5 game weeks in terms of favourable fixtures. So that might not be a bad idea in itself. So some people have gone 3-4-3 with Trent, Kofel, Digne, and then in the midfield they've got Jota, Salah, and some people have gone Firmino up front for a differential. So it's entirely your choice how you want to play it. Even Robertson at the back as well. They want to kind of spend additional budgets in their defence itself. But I believe that's a bit too much in your defence if you're playing for Digne, Trent, and Robertson. But hey, FPL is a game of managers and their thoughts. So if that's the way you want to go and invest that much in your defence, might not be a bad chance to do it first up. Because if you can get the rewards there and you can be differential, a good start. And then obviously you can play a wild card at any point, even after the international transfer and end of the transfer deadline. It will come very, very useful in that regards as well. At number 3 comes the promoted side, Brentford. Their first season in the Premier League. They got a new stadium and the fans will be going back there for the first time. So it's going to be a memorable occasion for them when they play Arsenal in Gameweek 1. Its difficulty rating is 3, which I think is sensible because Arsenal personally didn't play that well last season. Haven't done for many seasons, to be perfectly fair, in terms of their stature and where they aim to be. They haven't had a good recruitment this summer, in my opinion. Yes, they've got Ben White, but I think they needed a bit more preferably in the midfield, especially now that Willock has signed a deal with Newcastle and will be moving there for about 25 mil itself. So, you've got Brentford at Arsenal, they've got Crystal Palace away, Aston Villa away, Brighton and Hove Albion home, and Wolves followed by Liverpool and Watford, but obviously West Ham, those are the games after game week 5. So in the first 5 game weeks, there's no red or cherry red, so that seems quite favourable. People can look to get players such as Ivan Toney, 33 goals and 10 assists last season in the Championship, the highest by any striker in the Championship itself. So a lot of people are selecting at the moment. It's out on injury from yesterday or the day before, like a toe injury, but I think it's quite minor, so people can take advantage of that. He's on penalties and he doesn't mind taking a shot and setting up goals as well. So that might be a good shout to have. So you can use the funds elsewhere across your squad if you're only investing 6.5 in a forward. And then you've got Mbembo as well. 8 goals, 10 assists last season from the midfield. Looks a class player. Someone that I'm looking at very closely. Comes for about, a decent price, mid-range midfielder. And if he's going to play week in, week out, you can kind of rely on him to get you some points here and there where, it can come handy if it comes in the long term as well. So Brentford is someone that you can look at potentially for the first 5 game weeks. And those are the 2 players that I've highlighted at the moment. At number 4, we've got Watford. So Watford start off with Aston Villa at home, followed by Brighton away, and then Spurs is a difficult game. But then if you look at Wolves and Norwich, home and away, that seems like a very good fixture. Then Newcastle and Leeds in 6 and 7 game week for FPL. So again, some really good fixtures for a promoted side. Some players really do stand out. So Ismail Sarr, for example, 13 goals last season in the Championship. He's played before in the Premier League and showed glimpses as well. Didn't really play much, but what he did play, he set up some goals, got some assists as well. So people have some memories from the past. So I think that might be a good shout, around 6 mil. So not a bad shout whatsoever. But there are alternative options like Rafinha, who's a bit more expensive, Buendia, Harrison about 6 mil as well, and Tielemans about 6.5. So there are other options for that price as well. But in terms of fixtures, if that is something that you want to, really go a bit of a differential or try a new player, that's entirely your choice. For me personally, any promoted side that comes to the Premier League, one of my kind of key objectives or kind of my mindset as an FPL manager is I try to avoid any new players start. Let them settle in, let me see how they're working, and then if I do play a wild card or I'm looking to make a transfer to get someone else in or kind of get funds for another player that I think has had a good start, then it's easy enough to make just those transfers with those newly promoted players. For example, Timo Pukki, I think it was. Yeah, Pookie about 2 years ago when he came up, I got a hat-trick against Man City. Luckily, I got him in before that game, so I kind of benefited from watching his form, and then he kind of paid me off in that game. But then he didn't do pretty much hardly anything for the rest of the season, but I kind of cashed in at the right time. So that's a strategy which you may consider playing, which may be worthwhile. After Watford, we have Aston Villa. Apologies for that. So Aston Villa start their campaign off with promoted side Watford away, followed by Newcastle at home and Brentford at Villa Park as well. But then obviously in game week 4 and 5, they got Chelsea away at Stamford Bridge and Everton at home at Goodison Park. But if you look at the first 3 fixtures, a lot of people were owning Ollie Watkins before they signed Danny Ings a couple of days ago. Now, how will that impact Watkins? I think he'll still play potentially 4-4-2 or play on the left as he used to for Brentford when he was under the same manager who's currently playing under. But I think, some really good chances for some players to really get some good points there for Villa. So Martinez, for example, most popular pick goalkeeper, last season's top point scorer in terms of a goalkeeper. He averaged, let's see his points. So he averaged last season 4.89 points a game. So if you can do that again, we're managers who are owning him are actually going to be getting a good return. But for 5.5 mil, I think he's priced half a mil a bit too much. But again, some really good start in terms of goalkeeper. So, some people might just look at him and go, we'll get him in for 5.5. And then they could look alternatively to get another 5.5 goalkeeper. So, for example, they can look at from another goalkeeper, Hugo Lloris, for example. After game week 3, they got Crystal Palace away. There are potentially other options that they can look to bring in, or maybe just downgrade half a mil in terms of price-wise to, well, I'm going to say downgrade. I'm talking about price-wise in terms of lowering their budget to 5 mil to maybe Pickford from Everton, and then taking advantage of those Everton fixtures from game weeks there. So you can see Burnley, Aston Villa, and Norwich. Another player from Aston Villa, Danny Ings, who's recently signed 5.43 points a game, 8 mil. Good shout again. Could potentially get a few goals and could take and will be the penalty taker, I believe, over El Ghazi for this season itself. And then they've also got Ollie Watkins last season, 4.54 points a game, got nearly 170 points, I think 168 odd. So again, he could bag a few goals as well. If you got points for every time he hit the post or the crossbar last season, then he maybe would have got about 200 points. He was so unlucky, but he's a good player, good potential, and I think he'll get better playing alongside Danny Ings. I'll have to wait and see, and if he does get a good start, then he might even come in game week 2. But from game week 4 onwards, Chelsea away, Everton home, Manchester United away, Tottenham away. There's some seriously difficult fixtures there for Villa, so maybe short term and then look to transfer them out might be the best option. And number 6, we'll talk about Manchester United. So again, some favourable fixtures, starting off with Leeds at Old Trafford. I don't think it's going to be another 6-2, but it'll be an interesting game, so that might be a good return for them. Southampton away, Wolverhampton away, Newcastle at home, and then West Ham away final. I mean, it comes up at red. West Ham is a bogey team for United, so that's probably why that's come up as red, because they usually tend to do well against us when they do play. But players from last season, people are already doubling up on Manchester United or even trebling up. So Shaw, Sancho and Bruno are the most common selections. And some people are going Cavani early as a differential because I think he's pretty much of a good option. So for me, if Harry Kane doesn't go over to City, and I think he's not going to be available for game week 1, I'm potentially looking at Cavani coming in to fill that spot. And then if he does get the transfer done before game week 2, I can look to bring Kane back into my draft. So let's look at some points for these players. So Sancho obviously didn't play, so there's no points for him to go by. But I think if he did play last season in the FPL and he kind of replicated those numbers he had in the Bundesliga, he's looking at 170 points plus. Shaw got 4.2 points per game and Bruno 7.08 respectively, and he was the highest point scoring player in the whole of the FPL game last season with about 244 points. My bold prediction for this season was he's going to break the 300 points mark. So let's see if he does do that and become the first player after Mo Salah to get to that mark itself. So those are the first 6 teams, and I'll go over to Manchester City as well. So they were number 9 in terms of fixture difficulty rating. And the reason why I'm going for Manchester City is a lot of their players are being overlooked for 2 reasons. The first reason is obviously the Pep roulette. So like myself, many managers last season were pulling their hair out when their players weren't starting week in, week out. So I had Cancelo at one point, I had Mahrez, and I had Kevin De Bruyne. And even Kevin De Bruyne near the end of the season, due to injury or maybe fatigue because of the overload of the games, he was getting benched as well, who never got benched in the previous season. So it's quite difficult when you have so much investment from a team and those players get benched and you don't get the points from them in your team, which you're kind of expecting because you obviously spent so much of your budget chunk on those kind of players. And secondly, it's their first 5 game week fixtures are not ideal either in terms of fixture difficulty. That's why they're all the way down at number 9. So let's look at some of their fixtures that they do have. So Man City start away at Spurs and Tottenham. Now under Nuno, how's that going to be? It's going to be a difficult game to begin with. Obviously, they're not going to have Kane for that game most likely. But, they've got Mahrez, who's got some good form. Grealish, they've just brought in. Obviously, Bernardo Silva looks as if he'll be leaving and probably be part of the Kane deal. And Arsenal will probably miss out on him, which I thought would have been a good deal for Arsenal. But you've got players like Sterling, who probably get a game because Kevin De Bruyne is injured at the moment. Foden's out injured as well. So maybe Gundogan might get a few more games as well. But if we look at their fixtures, Tottenham away, Norwich at home, Arsenal at home, Leicester away again, which is 2 difficult fixtures. Then Southampton at home. Overall, Liverpool and Chelsea in game week 6 and 7 respectively. It's not an easy start. We're talking about the champions here, and they know how to do a good job. They can keep clean sheets and they can score goals when needed to be. So let's look at some of their players from last season. So for example, let's say Kevin De Bruyne, 6.36 points per game. Again, he only got around 148, 149 points for the season. But, if he plays with those numbers for the whole season itself, the guy's looking over 200 points. So for 12 mil, again, I think he's slightly high than I expected in terms of price, but 11 would have been fair for him. Raheem Sterling, 5.47 points per game, not his best season, kind of fell out of favour from Guardiola, but he showed his best form in the Euros, and I think he'll get more game time as well. And I think with Grealish's service, he might actually improve his goal stats once again. So, 11 mil, I think is a bit higher than I thought in terms of price. That's why not many managers have selected him. But I think there will be a point in this season where he hits form. And why not the start? Because there's no Kevin De Bruyne, so someone's going to lead that line without Harry Kane until he signs, or if he signs. Could be Sterling himself. And then Mahrez, who's shown great pre-season form, and I think a lot of managers now are looking to bring him in because of his amazing goal tallies and assists and performances. He got 6.71 points per game, but again, it's the rotation which is the frustration part. So start of the season, I don't think there'll be much rotation due to their injury concerns. And again, if he can get off to a good start, he does like to go big in certain games. So sometimes he goes big in terms of, anywhere between 12 to 20 points sometimes. So again, some really good picks. But if you want to take the risk of Pep Roulette plus the difficulty in fixtures, then you may be one of those managers that want to wait till about game week 8 or 9 when their fixtures get a bit better, and maybe a lot of people will start playing their wild card once they understand what Pep's new system is going to look like, or their kind of like most effective or most popular system will look like in terms of players coming in itself. So there's only one player for me, which is Ruben Dias, who looks the kind of like confirmed player, along with Edison, who will look like getting game week out. Even Stones, who had such a good season. There are players like Ake and Stones who are fighting for that position. So we'll have to wait and see how they go. But Man City, never write them off. If you're going to get a triple up on Man City and you want to go differential, I think it's not much of a risk. Yes, the fixtures look difficult, but this is Pep we're talking about, and Man City. They are an immense team, and they do like to get the job done itself. So that's the fixture difficulty, guys. So you have a look at the table, have a look at your teams, have a look at the players you're looking to bring in, see if your decision is impacted by the fixtures itself. Again, if you're a Norwich fan and you're looking to triple up on Norwich, maybe in the first 5 game weeks won't be the best idea, because I think they have easily the worst fixtures. We can go through Liverpool at home, Manchester City away, Leeds at home and Arsenal away, followed by Watford at home, which may be a more friendlier fixture for them. So they may even start off the first 4 games without a point. So I'll try to potentially avoid them. But if you want to be brave and get their defence or goalkeeper in and get some potential points in terms of saves and bonus points, if they do get a clean sheet, then again, that's your decision entirely. So that's my fixture difficulty video, guys. So I thought I'd give you that right now. I was going to make this earlier, but I thought, I'll make it in the final week, which is closer to the game week 1 deadline, to allow people to understand the fixtures and better understanding in terms of what players they can look to bring in, especially with the fixtures and the current transfers that are going on, the dilemmas people are facing. It's incredible. Even myself right now, Lukaku comes into Chelsea, do I want to get him in? Kane to City, do I want to get him in? I'm so personally involved in terms of Kane. I want Kane in my team this season. I can't play the season without having Harry Kane in there. So that's why I've potentially gone for the 5 defenders at the back draft. I mean, I know a lot of experts and a lot of managers at the moment are going 3-4-3, 4-4-2, which is a conventional way. I want to go a bit different this time. I want to go 5-3-2. I want to back my defenders who I do select, and the 5 offences that I have 4 of them are penalty takers, and they really do have good returns in terms of the overall goals and assists and returns over the course of the season. So that's my draft for you guys, and that's the fixtures itself. Let me know what you thought. Did you enjoy this video? Give me a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so far. The button's right there, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Join the FPL Inclink family, and let's have a great season for this FPL season, which starts in a few days. Join the league by hitting that code into the game itself, and let's have a lovely league and overall season of FPL management. Have a good one. I'll bring you back some more content soon. Take care. Till then.